There's really no shortage of small, lesser known things that could be done on my iPad mini that a lot of people don't know about. And anyone who's seen any of my videos knows that I love to use my iPad to streamline my work life and my personal life as much as I can. This ranges from things that are actually productive and contribute to work to activities that are completely mindless and sometimes much needed, and everything in between. So I wanted to create a list of 20 tips for iPad mini with the goal of people watching this to at least have one useful takeaway from it. But first, if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. Here we talk about minimalism, frugal living, tech, and things of that nature. So if that sounds good to you and you end up liking the video, be sure to like and please throw a yellow jacket's nest at the subscribe button. Let's get started. And since there are 20, I'm not going to spend too much time on each tip. Swipe corner for quick note. From the homepage of iPad mini, if you swipe right from the bottom corner in any direction, a quick note will pop up. And anything typed here will be saved directly into the Notes app. This is a quick and convenient way to save things I want to remember. And I've noticed for myself, this comes in the most handy when I'm watching a video and get an idea for something that I want to jot down quickly to remember without having to actually exit the video itself. Once I developed the muscle memory that this actually exists there and I can just access my notes, it was just a really convenient tool to have. Taking screenshots. The button configuration for screenshots on the iPad mini isn't my favorite. It is the lock button and one of the volume buttons, but something you may not know is swiping from the bottom left corner inward will actually create a screenshot the same way. Essentially, it's doing the same motion as a quick note on the opposite corner. This is much faster and comfortable, and you can make any edits needed right here from this screen. And of course, any screenshots taken here are saved directly into the camera roll. Quick conversion tool. An awesome little feature that's built directly into iPad without having to download an additional app is the quick conversion tool. By swiping down on the home screen and typing in any conversion, it gives you the answer instantly. For example, if I type in 20 USD, it gives me the euros conversion automatically. It does the same calculations with measurements and weight, converting it to the metric system for us American users. And there's even a quick copy button right on the answer itself if you need to copy it. Turn Siri button off. And this isn't as much of a feature as it is a quality of life improvement. I frankly never use Siri because overall I think it sucks. It always has. Since the iPad mini has Touch ID and not Face ID, I found that oftentimes when I'm trying to unlock my iPad, I'll hold down the lock button accidentally and activate Siri. A quick visit to the top button settings allowed me to turn off Siri completely and made one tiny little frustrating detail disappear. I recommend doing this if you don't use Siri at all anyways. I wanted to quickly thank Aura for sponsoring this video. There's been a number of high-profile security breaches recently that have put a lot of Americans' personal information at risk. Information like addresses and even social security numbers. Aura offers a variety of features to keep you safe online, like real-time alerts, a VPN, and data broker opt-out to stop companies from selling your personal info and much more. And with no exaggeration, there have been days where I get 4 or 5 spam texts with my number every single day. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people search sites that can sell your info to identity thieves, scammers, and more. If you haven't been taking your personal information online seriously, now's the time to change that, especially in today's digital landscape. If you don't want to leave yourself vulnerable to data breaches, you can go to aura.com/NicholasGarfola to try 2 weeks for free, which is long enough for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. That link is aura.com/NicholasGarfola in the description box for those 2 free weeks. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Background sounds. This is a feature that exists on iPads and iPhones that a ton of people seemingly don't know about, but I'm sure would enjoy using all the same. There's a feature called background sounds that is literally built into the OS to play sounds in the background, like rain, ocean, and a few others. You could just type in background sounds in your settings search to find it, or go to the accessibility, audio visual, and turn on background sounds from there. This is just a nice way to have an infinite loop that doesn't require internet access or a subscription to a music service. Safari customization. This is sort of a feature you wouldn't really think twice about, but I still think it's kind of cool that it exists. If I open Safari and press edit, I can customize my homepage by adding or removing favorites and even adding a custom background image that is displayed whenever I open Safari. There isn't any functional use for this other than aesthetic preference, but I found it's a nice way to make my homepage and Safari a little more cohesive, especially if I'm adding frequently visited sites to this homepage for just a one-click access. Picture-in-picture. If you watch videos on your iPad in any capacity, I'm sure you're familiar with picture-in-picture, even if you've discovered it on accident like I did. When you're watching videos on YouTube or even in a Safari window, swiping up to exit should automatically put your video in a pop-up window that continues playing while you navigate through the iPad. There could be several reasons for having a video playing in the background of something else, like a tutorial perhaps. And being able to move this window around and even change the size of it by double tapping is a rather useful feature. Split view apps. Split view has to be one of my favorite features ever put in an iPad. Basically, by dragging a window to the side of the iPad, you're given a split view with windows. There's also an option to just tap the three dots at the top of the screen in certain apps and select split screen from there. And while we're here, I should mention that slide over is the exact same thing, except a pop-out window of whatever app we're currently on rather than a split view. I found this to be extremely useful when having Safari on one side and Notes on another. To me, this is just a really nice way to multitask and be a little bit more productive. It also saves me the hassle of having to constantly switch between apps. Split keyboard. Keeping with the trend of splitting the view is the split keyboard feature. With the keyboard open on the display, you can literally split it in half with 2 fingers, making it easier to type on if you're holding it or have smaller hands. I like this feature because it keeps me from having to reach my thumb across the screen to type. And to return the keyboard to its original state, simply bring the 2 halves of the keyboard back together the same way they were split. Again, if you've done this by accident before and never knew how to bring the keyboard back to its original state, just use your 2 thumbs to bring them back together. Shake to undo. Another entry on this list I've done on accident a million times is the shake to undo feature. If this gesture is activated in the settings, shaking the iPad will undo your previous action, which can be a convenient feature or a galactic pain in the ass, but I've experienced both sides. I use the talk to text feature so much, which means I'm literally bringing the iPad up to my mouth to talk into it, like some tech bro douchebag, and then back down, which in some instances, I suppose that is movement enough to register it as a shake and will ask me if I want to undo that action. I've gotten used to it at this point, and now that I know how to manage the movement, I found the shake to undo feature rather cool and useful. This is also a feature that can be done on iPhone if you're interested. Sync controller for gaming. And this is something that may definitely seem like overkill until you find out how seamless and useful it actually is for certain games. I've always said that even if you're the most casual gamer, there's more than enough that could be played on the iPad, and being able to Bluetooth sync a controller just makes that even more true. Playing fun, not to mention free games like Call of Duty Mobile and Genshin Impact with a controller on iPad is honestly a blast and can scratch the occasional gaming itch if you have it. It's literally as simple as going to Bluetooth settings and pairing it there, and then the controller is ready for use. 4-finger swipe switches between apps. A gesture that isn't quite a game changer, but a gesture worth knowing nonetheless. Using your 4 fingers to swipe across the screen is another way to quickly switch between apps. I can't imagine this being super useful, but I think if you develop the muscle memory of switching between apps this way, I guess I could see it making certain tasks milliseconds faster. And this is also one of those things I've done on accident a million times before realizing it's an actual finger gesture to switch between the apps. Precise cursor movement. If I'm anywhere where I'm typing with the on-screen keyboard and I want to navigate the text much easier than trying to press a specific part of the text between letters, I can just press and hold the spacebar key and slide it across or up and down for precise movement. And this one is so useful because trying to fix a typo and attempting to constantly tap between letters to get exactly where you want to go can get really annoying, and this solves that issue completely. Keyboard secondary keys. Another keyboard feature that I literally never see anybody use is the secondary key swipe. The alternate characters that are on each key on the keyboard can actually be accessed more quickly than switching over to the alternate key screen. If I wanted to type the @ symbol, for example, I can just swipe down on the A key to type it. And this obviously works for all secondary keys. When I first discovered this, I would accidentally just type the key I'm pressing twice, and it would be a little annoying, but after getting used to it, it's made my typing much faster and convenient. Long press keys. There are a ton of alternate letters that can be accessed right from the standard keyboard. If I long press A, for example, I'm literally presented with 11 different options that are variations of the letter A. I imagine this is useful if you type in other languages than English, and not to mention some of the symbols have secondary characters as well. I remember before discovering this, just going to Google and copy and pasting the specific character I needed, which was inconvenient, and thankfully this solves that issue. 3 fingers for undo and redo. I can use 3 fingers to swipe left to undo my last action, like typing a word for example. And doing the same thing to the right is to redo the action. I could see typing being much quicker and efficient if all these gestures are implemented and used in conjunction with each other. And it's interesting how a 3-finger swipe is undo or redo, 4-finger swipe is to switch between apps, and a 2-finger swipe does nothing. Add a control to Control Center. If I swipe down from the top right corner to access the Control Center, there's actually quite a bit of customization that could be done here. By pressing and holding the screen while it's open, or tapping the plus button at the top, I'm able to add and remove or rearrange the order of the controls I have here. And there are a ton. Pretty much every accessibility feature, a bar to quickly customize the font size, music recognition, ChatGPT if it's installed, QR code scanner, and even a couple of other things you didn't know the iPad can do, like be used as a remote or quick access to a nearby printer. There are features here I will literally never use, but I personally keep the screen recording tool, calculator, and a flashlight handy, just to name a few of them, but the configurations are endless and can suit most needs that I can think of. Pinch to shrink keyboard. I found this extremely useful when I'm using the Apple Pencil to draw. If you pinch the keyboard on screen, you're given a smaller keyboard that can be moved around freely. Far too small to be used by my fingers, I found this extra useful. For those instances I had to type something but just had my pencil out anyways. But admittedly, I only really use this when I'm putting text words into Procreate. But maybe there are other scenarios or people who just prefer typing with the pencil for some reason. External monitor. And of course, not exactly a secret that exists within the iPad itself is the ability to use an external monitor. I've shown in the past how the Thunderbolt cable that I use can connect to my iPad to be used as a mirrored monitor. Something else that's super convenient when I'm drawing on Procreate and just want a blown up look at the art. Watching videos on a bigger screen, FaceTiming, or even bigger games, a lot of things are just better experienced on a bigger monitor. External drive. And lastly, while we're on the topic of utilizing that USB-C port, I wanted to mention the ability to use external hard drives as well. If I plug my backup hard drive into my iPad mini and go to the Files app, I can access everything that's on my external hard drive and bring those items to my iPad and vice versa. I could totally see this working in a pinch, or if I'm doing something that can only be done on my iPad, like drawing again, and I want to put that drawing onto my external hard drive, this would probably be the most efficient way to do that. And speaking from my own experience, every external hard drive that I've used has worked. Anyways, these were just 20 tips for iPad mini. I hope some of them have proven to be useful for you, and a few of them can actually make your life a little bit easier and help you get the most out of your iPad mini like I have over the past few years. Anyways, as always, I appreciate the time you spent here and I appreciate you watching. If you did like this video and you like this type of content, be sure to like and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.